Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Two Moms and Some Labels. Two Moms and Some Labels is a platform for parents and caregivers caring for a child or an adult with a disability to come together in a shared space to commune, network, and just share and gain ideas on how to persevere through challenging times. My name is Brittany.
I'm Nicole.
And on this episode of Two Moms and Some Labels, we are going to talk all about finding a caregiver. Like, how do you find a caregiver? Is there a right or wrong caregiver? Like, what are the qualifications? What are the criteria? What do you need to know about finding a caregiver? So, of course, we want to talk about our experiences and some of the expectations that we may have as parents of children with medical complexities and things like that, what we think are good qualifications for our family. And, of course, after we want to know what you think, but let's get into this. Let's talk about the criteria and everything. How do you find the right caregiver? What is a good caregiver?
So I think too, we got to think about there's two types. You have your private, and then you have if you qualify for nursing, which both can be a nightmare. So with nursing, like an agency through your insurance, I feel like we utilized a lot of that when Lorenzo was little. As he got older and we found that we could manage it, we stepped away from nursing. We haven't had nursing since 2019. We haven't had nursing. He still had his trach. He still was on the pulse ox, still G2 fed, night feedings and everything like that. But we came to the point where it was just easier not to have nursing and go with private, which private is expensive because, it doesn't take your insurance. But I feel like you have more control over the scheduling and what you can ask them to do. Now, the experience I've had with private, they weren't as medical. How about you? Experience with that?
Yeah, definitely not medical. So we only use private because Ayana has straight Medicaid and none of the agencies accept straight Medicaid because there's a low reimbursement rate. So we use private, and 9 times out of 10, the person that we've interviewed, they have either did more of like senior adult care, or they don't have any medical experience at all, or they may say like, I've had a relative or a sibling that had special needs, so they've been around it. But 9 times out of 10, I've had to train them on everything about Ayana and what she needs because they don't have any experience on any of the medical training. Now, I have had some that were like, they were a nurse and they were just looking for some like extra work to pick up. But with those ones, it was really like, okay, they're charging more. I think some of their rates even would have been more like than what they were actually getting paid at wherever they were working at. Like they were trying to charge extra, like more than that. So I was like, yeah, that's not in my budget. So we couldn't go that route. But honestly, I can say that the last caregiver that we had, she had no type of medical experience whatsoever. And she actually was with us the longest.
Okay.
Actually we had two, and both of them had no medical experience. And they both were with us for like 2 years plus.
Wow.
And they were actually like some of the best caregivers that we had, even though they didn't have any type of medical experience. And it was like almost like they became family because they were with us so long and they treated Ayana like she was their own child. So, and I got to know more about their family and things like that. So those are the things that I think that is the difference between having an agency and then not having an agency using private. But even still, you have like new nurses that may come into the field, and they may not have any experience working in pediatrics. They've never had experience in pediatrics, or again, they were working with adults primarily. So I feel like it's always some type of learning curve for whoever that you have coming out to your home to do any type of, caregiving or providing respite for the family.
I agree. And I think a lot of times I realized that caregiving, finding a private caregiver wasn't as bad because I had trained my mom. So I was like, got over the fear of like, oh, it had to be a nurse. And like you said, I feel like sometimes as far as doing the private caregiver, I felt like it was great because they were like babysitting. So it was more activities. I felt like it was more the person like wanted to be here instead of like, it was still a job, but it was just a different feel of than every, you kind of like only doing checks every 2 to 3 hours,
Right.
as a babysitter, which more I call babysitters for the private. They were more fun, more like energetic. And then sometimes, no offense to the nursing agencies, but sometimes, because I was grateful when we had them, but sometimes they would come in and it would be like, we're doing this by this. There's no flexing here where, you got them from 7 to 7. And then if you ask them, hey, I only need you 7 to 4 today or 7 to 3, they're upset because they're kind of getting gypped of their hours. While as private, I feel like you don't have those type of issues. I call you when I need you. It's not like I need you 7 days a week. So I can still have my family time, not have someone. The reason why I got more tired of nursing and felt like it was just draining, and I really only needed someone when I needed them, is because start realizing like your house is being destroyed. You always have someone just there, and it can be kind of like overwhelming when you're trying to like have family time and you got to be back home at 7 because you got to, the nurses have to switch shift, and if the nurse that night doesn't show up, you can't be too far because now you have to come home. Whereas with private, like I say, I feel like you just have more control.
Yeah. So it's more like a companionship / respite when you have the private caregivers come out. And I would say that as far as like the criteria or when I'm going to look for someone, the things that I'm looking for, first of all, I'm going to do a background check. Okay. So that's going to be done. A background check is a must. And then, just asking, I think that, should always have a list of the questions prepared that you want to ask the person, but, asking their background experience. Do they work somewhere now? Where have they worked before? Why are they not working there anymore? Why do you want to work, here with my child, with my family? What are your expectations? And then I let them know what my expectations are, the things that I expect to get completed or done, or how I expect for you to treat my child. I let them know up front, like, hey, have you had experience with a child, like yelling and screaming? What would you do in that situation? How do you handle that? What is your tolerance of, being able to handle situations like that? And what are you going to do in response to their acting, how they may be acting at that time? Those are the type of questions that those are a must. I'm going to ask those type of questions because I need to know how you're going to deal with my child and handle my child when I'm not around. And I need to know what your tolerance level is, what your patience level is, because if it's not, you don't have the tolerance or the patience, then you're at the wrong place. And then also too, are you usually late? Are you on time when you first even come for the interview? And I see that you're either, 15 or 5 minutes early, or you're right on time, or you're late, then that's already letting me know right there, like, okay, this is probably not going to be a good fit because you were late on the interview and you didn't even tell me that you was running late or anything like that. So, those are the type of markers that I am going to look at and consider when I'm looking for the right caregiver for my child. And then, I just want to know, their interactions, maybe some things that they may do if they have their family of their own, if they have their own kids also too, because I think that those can be things that can affect their availability, their attentiveness, and really their like dedication or desire to like really want to do the job. Because if you have a lot of stuff going on at home with your own kids and things like that, then that could interfere a lot with you being able to focus and pay attention to, doing what your job duty is supposed to be at that time. Because I have had people that are like, every 10 minutes, it seems like you're in your phone because you have something going on at home, or you got to make a phone call. You got to check on this or that, or, your kids, they don't have a ride. And like, it's just, it becomes like this big, a never ending cycle of things going on. So I think those are good questions to ask. And then of course, like with the medical equipment, I asked, like, have you had experience dealing with the feeding tube? Are you comfortable with changing diapers? Using a lift, using a nebulizer and giving medication? Like, what is your comfortability on those types of things? Because a lot of times people, they hear the feeding tube or they see it and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with that. Like, I'm scared. Am I going to pull it out on accident? Or like, people get scared when they hear feeding tube or see that. Cause I've had some people not even like want to do the job because I just said she has a feeding tube and they're like, I'm not comfortable with that. So, but I'll be like, it's like really easy. Like, I can show you and they'll just be like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that. So, those are things that are important to ask too. And then, with seizures also, that's something too, that some people may be like, oh yeah, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that because she has seizures. But luckily, we've had most of the caregivers recently be comfortable with learning, and dealing with if she has a seizure or not. And when I tell them like what the steps are that they need to take to handle her if she has a seizure, they've been pretty comfortable and open to learning what to do with that. And then I also like to make like a binder, and I keep like everything in the binder. I literally have like step-by-step directions on how to administer the medicine, how to set up the feeding pump, how to, administer her seizure medicine, and phone numbers and things like that. So I keep, a book of all the directions in there, how to give a water flush and stuff like that. And then also too, I'm big on like, if I, hire you, I'm not going to just be like, okay, well, hey, thank you. This is what you got to do. Goodbye. I'll see you, in a couple hours. No, I'm going to be there to supervise you for at least a good week or two, or until I feel that you're comfortable and I'm comfortable with doing the things that, I have asked you to do. So I never just like leave them to do things on their own, unless it was like through an agency and it was, a nurse that has had the experience. So, yeah, for the most part, no, I'm not just going to leave you to do all this stuff on the first week or second week. I'm going to stay with you and I demonstrate, then I let you do it. And I'm watching you do it to see, how comfortable you are.
My biggest thing when looking for a caregiver. So when we were in the nursing phase, Lorenzo was still on a lot of equipment. He wasn't really walking. He needed more medical attention. So now we're in a different space right now. He needs interaction, but also you need to have patience. You got to have patience. And we all hear those stories on the news where like the babysitter or someone kept the child and just snapped in that second because their nerves. So that is a big thing for me, because Lorenzo will ask you a question every 30 seconds for, he'll ask it 100 times. And if you don't have the patience, you can snap. And that's the big thing. But like Brittany said, I don't leave them alone. Luckily, the caregiver we have now, one who I really trust, is his music therapist. So that's excellent. They have a bond. She works with a lot of autistic children. The other person is younger, but she has an autistic sibling. And actually her sibling, it's so funny, mimics Lorenzo. Like the stimming is actually kind of almost the same. So she's very familiar with dealing with that and redirecting and kind of like tuning out certain things. So she's really good, and she'll get on the floor and play with him. We did have one person who me, his dad, my mom, everyone thought this person was going to be great. No, she was great in front of us, but that camera, we knew it was a red flag when she asked us every room have a camera. What kind of question? Wait a minute, why are you even concerned? Which was good that she asked that question, because it was like, okay, that's a red flag. So then when we left, I was like, I'm only comfortable leaving her for a little bit. We observed her, and like I said, she was great. So I still something in me. And on the camera, it was like she was just too strict. So it might have worked for someone else. And me and his dad were like, well, maybe she wasn't like that in front of us because we were there as parents. But we're yeah, you're not gonna be snapping on my baby. No. No. So that didn't work. So it's also, can you handle him medically? Like if he does need something, noticing his breathing or his airway, he still can't swallow. We don't let any caregiver give him any type of chewing food. He only can have pudding and juice, and sometimes not even, depends on the actual caregiver. We do make sure there's CPR, and they can do the Heimlich remover because of his airway and stuff. But finding a caregiver that has all that, and then also the same way with the neurotypical kid, you still want that same type of parenting style, and that sometimes can be a little, because we're kind of, I don't know if we're gentle parents, but we are we're very lax parents. I don't see us being strict parents. Like the teacher called me the other day, said Lorenzo yelled in someone's ear. And I'm like, well, why? What did the person do to him to yell? My son just doesn't yell to be yelling. So that's also when you're hiring a caregiver, because some people are like, mom said bed is at 8:30, but if I notice Lorenzo is kind of like, that's not going to work, we'll let him stay up. But the girl who has the autistic sibling, she gets that, and she'll be like, she'll call and she'll be like, hey, Miss Nicole, Lorenzo's still kind of really energetic. Do you mind if we play a game just to keep his brain? And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but she'll think, because she's familiar with it. So she's excellent, but she's going away to college. I was like, why would you go away to college? I'm all for go. I was like, don't leave us. But she's 2 years. She's finished her 2 years, so she's going off to university. And I keep telling her, you need to be a therapist. Like, you need to get into this field. She's so good. But she said she'll come visit him on her breaks. But she was our golden caregiver.
Yeah. It's always so hard, losing those good caregivers, because it's like you never find another one, or it takes forever to find another caregiver like that. And that's what I was going to say too, is finding the caregiver. You have all these qualifications and expectations and things that you have for the caregiver. But when is it like, okay, this is crossing the line, or do I let this slide? Do I say something? Do I not? Like, when do you know when to say certain things, or if you need to say certain things? Because like I said, it's hard to find a good caregiver. And, you know, like we've been through so many applicants and no one has stuck, or, you know, it's just like not available at the same time that we are. And it doesn't fit. So we've had a hard time finding a caregiver. So then it's like when we want to do something, or, you know, we find someone with availability, and then some little things are like, I don't know if I like this, you know, little thing that they do, or that. Or for instance, let's say I had a caregiver that,
let's hear it. We want to hear it.
Yeah, that broke a piece of equipment, and they didn't say anything to me at all. They didn't say anything after they broke the equipment. I had to find out when I went to go use the equipment, and I'm like, what in the world? What happened to this? It's broken. And I know that caregiver was the last person to use the equipment. So, you know, as little things like that, do you say something to the caregiver, or do you not say something? Because I didn't say anything. I haven't said anything, but I feel like every time I look at it or go to use the equipment, then I'm like, this lady didn't, oh my gosh, broke the piece of equipment. And I just still can't believe that they wouldn't even tell me that they broke it. It's just a little button and a little remote. So why couldn't you just say, I accidentally broke this? Like if you would have just told me you accidentally did it, then I would have been more like open and okay. But for you to completely not say anything at all, it just leaves like this feeling that is just like swirling around in my brain every time I see the equipment. And I'm thinking about, have you done anything else I don't know about? Do I need to go back and
what
look
else am
at
I gonna
cameras
find?
because you didn't tell me about this? But then it's like, if I say something to the caregiver, are they going to start treating my child differently? Are they going to not want to be doing their job as much? Are they going to get uncomfortable and be like, oh, I can't come anymore, or, you know, they don't want to come anymore? It's just like I'm torn and mixed in between. It's like, when is it the time to say something? Do you say something about a broken remote on equipment? Like, when do you need to say something to a caregiver? Of course, you know, if they like put their hands on your child, or if they talk to them crazy, or, you know, things like that. Yes, immediately you need to say something, because you're probably going to end up on Channel 4 News. So besides those types of things, like what are the little things that you would let slide, or do you not let them slide? What would you do?
So when we had nursing, at first I wouldn't let anything slide. I was like, nope, she's gone. Nope, she's gone. But the agency would always tell me, Mom, you're going to run through every nurse. Mom, you're not going to have any nurses. And then I start talking to other families, and they'd be like, you have to weigh the good and the bad. And I'm like, this is my child. This is my house. No, it's all bad. It makes no sense. These are grown folks. I shouldn't have to do this. Then I start saying, okay, breathe, and let's weigh the odd. Let's focus. But I still would get rid of people, because I feel like certain things I'm just not going to tolerate at the end of the day. You can't come in and disrespect people's property. People work hard for their property. And then also there's certain things I like done with my child. And that's why I kind of like the private, because I feel like I have more control. When it comes to the nurses, I feel like they go back and call the agency, and then we're playing tug of war. Well, Mom, before you say something to the nurse, you know, call us and then we'll talk to her and stuff like that. Showing up late all the time, I think, is unacceptable. You're messing up my schedule now. You're not respecting my time. So I feel like that's something that should be addressed. This is your job. Spilling stuff, not documenting correctly, definitely have to say something about that, because when we go to the doctors, they're going to be looking at me, because this is my child, and at the end of the day, I am responsible for my child. You're going to go to a new house. So that more so with the nurses. Now, as far as like private caregivers, I will be a little bit more lenient with them, because I feel like they don't know. like as far as the equipment. I feel like with the nurses, you've been in enough homes, you know what we go through to get equipment, you know what we go through to get supplies. I get it. Private, I feel like I have to talk them through that, because like when she was doing the G-tube feeding, she threw away his extension. Now y'all know we don't get a lot of extension, but she was like, oh, I thought he just got one every day. No, man, welcome to our world. No, you don't get one every. And she was just distraught. She was like, they won't give him one every day. That's just. I'm like, no, man, we get like 3 or 4 of them. And she's like, oh, I didn't know. So that was something, I had to explain to her, and she didn't get offended by it, but that was simple. Now I feel like something great. I just feel like you could at least came to me and said, hey, Britt, I don't know, what happened, but this, I apologize. Like, I think that, but just to go, because she had to know she broke it, because she couldn't hang the thing back up. So it wasn't like, oh, I didn't even know I did it. Like, you knew you did it. So I think certain things like that, but then again, it's a caregiver and everything else is perfect about her, right?
Yeah. Yeah, everything else is good. Like, they're really good with Ayana. So, and then I guess it too depends all on your approach and the tone that you may use also. If you are the type of person that feels like, you're going to address everything, I think the approach and tone, or even just letting the caregiver know up front when you go to hire them, or they start working the nurse or whatever, like, I expect, if something happens, if this breaks, then I need you to let me know. Maybe that's what I need to do going forward. When, like, just if something happens, please let me know, instead of, not saying anything at all. So, maybe that's what I need to do going forward. I've, like I said, let it go, because it's a remote. So it's not the end of the world. I'm trying to do better about letting things go that's not going to affect me daily. But overall, I think those are, the type of things that, anyone looking for a private or a medical caregiver should, look for and ask when you're looking for a caregiver. Make sure that you're asking all those important questions. Write down your questions ahead of time. Know what it is that you are looking for and how you want them to treat your child. Get cameras. I have cameras, so get cameras, because you just never know.
And and don't just get cameras in your child's room.
Yeah.
If you don't want the cameras on while you and your family are there in the public spaces, that's fine. You just can't have a camera in the bathroom that they use, but get a camera everywhere. I know some families are saying, oh, I have a camera in the room. Okay, sweetheart, when you leave the house, they're in your living room. Yep, they're in your living room, and your child is in the room, and they'll position that camera to just have that chair that they sit in with your child, not be in the angle, because they start learning different things. So you need to have cameras all over your house, and don't let them know. They know there's a camera in the child's room most of the time, but they don't know where they're at in your house, and don't show them. But have one in your kitchen, your living room, just common areas. And I suggest, keeping your door closed and stuff. But that was
definitely. Yeah. I do keep all the other doors closed for rooms that, they're not utilizing or expected to utilize. Right. So overall, it has become harder to find a caregiver, harder to get nursing and things like that. And, they do have the new parent caregiver nursing program, which is a whole nother topic.
We gotta discuss that. Yeah, we gotta discuss that. We'll get y'all some information on that.
We are definitely, going to be posting some additional resources that you guys can use to find caregivers, some different companies. Some of them I've personally used, so I definitely would not recommend a company that I have not used or experienced. If you guys have any other suggestions or companies that you have used that you found to be very great and resourceful, please let us know. Also, we'll put on our page some places that you can go to post jobs. I know I've used Indeed job posting before, Craigslist. So we will post all those things on there and share with us your experiences that you've had with your caregivers or nurses, or some of the interview questions that you may ask your caregivers when you interview them. We'd love to know. Maybe there's something we're missing. I mean, we can always use some extra insight on things to ask caregivers. So we're all in this together.
We are.
And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Two Moms and Some Labels. We'll post all that information for you. And be sure to tune in to the next episode of Two Moms and Some Labels. And you can check us out on Facebook, Spotify, Apple, the Apple Podcasts.
We everywhere. We're everywhere.
We're everywhere. Okay.